first thing in terms of it being an artist's journey is where I started. And basically, it was from wildlife. I saw an exhibition of Fenn Lansdowne's work, and I thought, well, I can do that. And I started painting basically, rather than birds, animals, just as vignettes in watercolor. And then I thought, well, I have to do more than that. So I started designing full paintings, background, environment, etc. And then I started using acrylic paints and on masonite, and the paintings here reflect that. Full compositions, rendering the animals, and all designed, very much designed in an abstract way before I put the actual rendering of the pieces in, the backgrounds, the animals, the birds, whatever. And so from there I did that for 20 years before I started to branch out. And then from there, because I had the skills, a friend of ours had very long hair that she braided, and I was fascinated with this beautiful hair. And so I did a painting, a drawing first of her braiding her hair, and then I did a painting of her braiding her hair. And I put that in a show of wildlife pieces, and it was the first painting that sold. So I thought, oh, this is good, I'll try something different. So I did a number of paintings of her braiding her hair, and then I went from there and I started painting nudes with duvet covers in different situations, even nudes and wildlife. And then I had an idea for a show, and I thought, you know, because a number of my wife's friends had referred to God as she. So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. You know, we live in a patriarchal society. What if it was matriarchal? So then I started painting women in the roles that we usually assign to men, God being one. And instead of Adam, I made it Eve. And then from there, the pharaoh became an assistant to his wife. The samurai became a woman with 2 swords in her belt. And la penseur became la penseuse. David became Davida. And Descobla stayed the same, just. And then I did a show called In Praise of Women. And one of the pieces is here called 9 Months, obvious title for a woman in her 9th month. And but I also had a number of others, including 1 in 9, which is a woman with a mastectomy, which brought a lot of interest at the show. Good interest, though. And so a number of pieces that weren't sold at that show are here. And then from there, I was looking at my work, and I always sketched in small sketches. And I sketched mostly an abstract of what I wanted to show. I sketched the form, I sketched the tonal qualities just in black and white, fairly abstract, and then I would build representational stuff into that, whether it was a bird or an animal or a tree branch or a mountain or whatever. And then at one point I was looking at all these sketches and I thought I'd really like to paint landscape. So I did some landscape pieces, impressionist, because I love Monet and etc. And I was terrible at it. So I said, this doesn't work for me. But since I had done silk screens, I thought maybe a silk screen effect would be better. And so that evolved into the last 5 years of painting, which were the landscapes done without form, with just focusing on the form, the mood, trying to set an atmosphere in the painting. Actually, almost all of them I always tried to develop an atmosphere, a feeling. But with the non-representational stuff now, it's not really abstract, it's what you call contemporary, but there's no detail. With the detail, for instance, I would like to get the texture of the piece. Well, I don't in these pieces. It's all about the form, the mood, etc. Being able to recognize those places still, but no leaves on the trees. No little waves breaking. And it's very satisfying, and I get a lot of pleasure out of it, and it's a lot of fun. I can have more scope. I can do more things with it, play with different things. Whereas when it's representational work, there's a limit to what you can do in terms of self-expression. Because, you know, when I painted the nudes, I wanted the skin texture. And for each of these things, I used different techniques. With the wildlife, it was straight paint. I painted the colors I wanted and I put them on. With the nudes and the figurative work, I did crosshatch, which is like painting like you would do a pencil drawing, cross-hatching for shading, just like the engravers did in the 16th century. And so if you look really closely at them, you'll see all this crosshatch work. And that's how I was able to get the texture and the feeling and the very quick tonal changes, but without any edges, so it was soft. And then, of course, when I go to the landscapes, which is a lot of softness with edges with softness in between and smooth gradations. And a lot of that is done with a sponge. When I actually use a piece of packing foam and I cut it to shape my hand and sponge it in, and I get these gradations. And then I save the actual painting on work till the end, and that goes on top. So you see these smooth gradations and tone behind, and then actually I do a lot of blending wet in wet, which I didn't do on the other stuff. So there's all different techniques, all the same medium, an acrylic-based gouache. I use canvas now. I used to use masonite with gessoed, very smooth, and it all works. And it's a lot of fun. Now I use an acrylic gouache paint, which has a tremendous luminosity. It's used by decorative bird painters because of the color. Well, it works really well for painting too. It's real clear. I noticed that one in the original backgrounds that he was saying was yeah.
Or forward lean. It's like it's almost more comfortable than the chair. Because your legs are like your legs are right here. But I think it's all you get vicarious.
I haven't seen that.
Could do better if you applied.
Yeah, that's one further up the street from that. Just like out.
He did build out a lot of excellent interior pretty well.
Just